people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fucking fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Trainer, manager, and promoter extraordinaire. Steffi Bull posted this to his social media with a caption that reads, WBA champion of the world, Terry Harper, is back in the office working hard towards a January defense of her title, #Belter.
Title defense, that means she's staying at junior middleweight for at least one more fight.
If her next fight does indeed end up being a title defense, Terry Harper doesn't hold any world titles anywhere else in any other division, so this would have to mean her next fight will be fought at junior middleweight.
The approaching threat of Mary Spencer still looms, hovering like shadow in the sky.
Waiting to descend on any belt holders, any world champions in today's junior middleweight division. The last couple of weeks, last couple of months, I've been talking to you guys about how Mary Spencer is a near, credible, and apparent threat to both Terry Harper and Natasha Jonas, the only two champions at this weight. The longer Terry Harper stays at 154 pounds, the closer Mary Spencer gets to her.
Eddie Hearn has revealed that they've now made a second, bigger offer to Natasha Jonas to face Terry Harper next for undisputed at 154 pounds.
Likely for more money than their initial offer to Natasha Jonas. Whatever that number was, whatever that offer was, it wasn't to Natasha Jonas's fancy. Put simply, she told me, maybe that offer's a big offer to Terry Harper, but based on the money she's been making since migrating over to Sky, it's a paltry offer to her.
They have since made her an improved offer, and let's see if she's receptive to it. I don't really think she will be.
There's a lot of hard feelings there between Team Jonas and Team Harper. The focus here is Terry Harper and this proposed January title defense. If they come up short of luck with Natasha Jonas, who will Terry Harper be fighting in early January as a reigning, defending junior middleweight champion? Well, we know ranked at number one is the very dangerous Mary Spencer of Canada. Ranked right behind Mary is Emma Kozin, who suffered her first professional loss to Clarissa Shields.
I think that was earlier this year, wasn't it?
Ranked right behind Emma is Hannah Rankin, who Terry Harper defeated for the WBA title in her last fight. Don't think she's going to run it back with Hannah. Ranked right behind Hannah is Marianne Alborg.
Sweden.
These are all legitimate junior middleweights. Cynthia Lozano, Claribel Mena.
These are all bona fide, legitimate junior middleweights, not smaller fighters who moved up in weight. Patricia Bergoult, Logan Haller.
Hit dog, Will Haller.
Veteran of the sport, Chevelle Hallback here in the US of A. You get the sense that maybe Terry don't fight one of these fighters, maybe she doesn't. Devoid of a mandatory title defense, a mandated fight by way of the WBA, Terry Harper, for a voluntary title defense, may elect to take on a smaller fighter, a welterweight, somebody like a Kirsty Bavington.
Kirsty Bavington, reigning EBU welterweight champion, who has since rebounded off the loss she suffered to Sandy Ryan.
That was last year. She's on a four-fight winning streak. One of those four fights was the April Hunter fight, where she gave April Hunter that shock upset loss. She was in action more recently.
In action against unbeaten Naomi Mans of Germany. Yet another fighter that Kirsty Bavington just dished out their first professional loss to. Kirsty Bavington has really hit her stride. She's on a hot streak. Maybe she fights Terry Harper.
Kirsty was in action last week. On that schedule, she might be ready to take on Terry Harper in January.
Yeah, I could see Harper versus Bavington. I could see Harper versus Summerlin. Summerlin, Rick Ramos's girl, his unbeaten up-and-comer.
Who also campaigns as a welterweight. You just get the sense that if Terry Harper's next fight is a voluntary title defense, she might fight a welterweight at super welterweight.
I still don't think she's going to be up there very long.
But it does look like, for the time being, she will remain the WBA champion at 154 pounds. Doesn't seem like there's a mandate coming down, not yet, by way of the WBA ordering Terry to take on Mary Spencer, who's ranked at number 1.
It's only a matter of time, though.
You know, Natasha Jonas expressed an interest in moving down in weight, taking on Jessica McCaskill for her titles in the welterweight division, and I heard something about Rick Ramos blowing off that idea. So could we end up seeing Terry Harper versus Jessica McCaskill at some point next year? Or maybe Cameron versus McCaskill?
My feelings haven't changed. I don't think that Terry Harper will have an extended stay up there at 154 pounds. As options become available and certain doors open, she may elect to move down.
The biggest money fight at the weight is the Jonas fight, but at this time, Natasha Jonas and Smokin' Joe Gallagher, they're not receptive to that fight, so why stay there?
Bigger money fights would be south of 154 pounds. A potential Chantel Cameron fight, Jessica McCaskill.
There are other solid fighters down there. Other solid fighters down there at those weights, like Jessica Kamara of Canada.
Down there at 140, two-time WBO champion, former WBO champion Christina Lenardatu has since made her comeback. That's another potential opponent option for Terry.
So, you know, she might defend her title at 154 pounds in January, but I still expect that Terry Harper will eventually move down in weight at some point next year. It's just a question of when. In men's heavyweight news, ahead of his upcoming trilogy with Derek Chisora, Tyson Fury says, when I splatter Usyk, they're gonna say he was too small, it was a mismatch.
You know, two things can be true at the same time. Maybe Usyk is too small for Tyson Fury, and maybe it will be a mismatch. But that doesn't mean he won't get the credit he deserves if he wins.
I'll tell you now what people are gonna say when I splatter Usyk, Fury said. They're gonna say he was too small. It was a mismatch. He was never any good to Tyson. It was a mismatch. Whatever. And then we move on. The 6'9" Fury, who has weighed as much as 277 pounds for his title fights in recent years, would have significant height and weight advantages over Usyk if they fight to become boxing's first fully unified heavyweight champion in the four-belt era. Usyk,
6'3", weighed in at 221 pounds for his rematch with Anthony Joshua 3 months ago.
If Tyson Fury proves to be too big and too much for Alexander Usyk in terms of height and reach and size, that doesn't mean you can't give Tyson Fury credit if he beats him. You can give him credit.
Yeah, two things can be true at the same time.
How am I going to get credit for beating a man half my size, Fury said in reference to Usyk? It's all for me to lose and nothing to gain. Oh, he beat a guy half his size. Oh, Usyk beat the bodybuilder, Joshua. Yeah, well, you say the bodybuilder's a bodybuilder, son. He ain't no boxer, I said. We'll see. Proof's in the pudding.
Wilder ain't no boxer either. He's just a puncher.
He might have a lot more height than Alexander Usyk and more wingspan than Alexander Usyk, but in the second Tyson Fury fight, Deontay Wilder only weighed about 10, 11 pounds more than Usyk weighed for the Joshua rematch.
Tyson Fury thinks his wins over Deontay Wilder are the greatest thing since sliced bread. Deontay Wilder has never been a particularly sturdy heavyweight. He was always very lanky and very lean.
So for saying that you're not going to get any credit for beating Usyk because he's so much smaller than you are, you could arguably make that same argument about Deontay Wilder. He weighed a lot less than Tyson Fury.
But are we going to make that same argument?
No, we're not. Deontay Wilder was a heavyweight champion, and Alexander Usyk is a unified heavyweight champion. He's well into his heavyweight campaign, so if Tyson Fury beats him, he'll get the credit.
That's saying a lot because you guys know I don't like Tyson Fury.
Over the years, I've grown tired of his flip-flopping, his shenanigans, and his antics. I've grown tired of Tyson Fury's circus. But if he beats Usyk,
of course I'd give him the credit.
You can't get Tyson Fury to sit down and do an interview without him talking about Anthony Joshua. Tyson Fury, on if the Joshua fight is a glamour fight, he says, no, there's no glamour in fighting a coward. None. I don't fight cowards. I only fight real men. That's a glamour fight? No way. My glamour fight was fighting the 42-0 Deontay Wilder in America.
Some people would say that you trying to fight Anthony Joshua off 2 back-to-back losses on that kind of notice was a cowardly move.
That you were deliberately trying to get him in the ring at a low point, if you were, in fact, trying to get him in the ring. Others believe that it was all just a publicity stunt to try and make him look bad so you can sell this fight.
Because you were never serious about getting him in the ring. You didn't believe you would.
You just wanted to shame him publicly so you'd have an excuse to sell the paying customers a fight like this. A fight that nobody was asking for, a fight that nobody wants.
I don't really know what they were thinking, but it didn't work.
Even with the assisted aid of Derek Chisora's name value and his cult following, this fight is set to go down on one of the busiest months in the calendar year for the consumer.
You want to go scheduling fights around Christmas when people are thinking of their loved ones and all the gifts they're supposed to buy them at a time when a lot of people are strapped for cash and selling a pay-per-view has become increasingly difficult due to piracy?
Well, then have at 'em, cowboy. It's your funeral.
I may be going out on a limb here, but I do think that's at least a part of the reason why Anthony Joshua chose to forego a December comeback. Between the fight that Tyson Fury was already scheduled to have and what else is going on that time of the month, that time of the year.
Asking the fight fans to dip into their wallets and shell out big cash for yet another fight, potentially another box office fight, well, it's a tough sell.
It would have been, but he chose to forego that December comeback, didn't he?
Tyson Fury, however, he chose to move forward with what a lot of people believe was the fight that he always intended to have. He always meant to fight Derek Chisora, and all that stuff with Anthony Joshua was little more than a shit show.
As far as next year, Tyson Fury on his plans in 2023, if Alexander Usyk don't want no smoke in February, then let's do Joyce at Wembley.
Not against that.
Joe, get fit, mush, because if the middleweight don't want no smoke, you're in.
I'm fighting 3 times next year, and you can be one of them. Now, I know that you can't necessarily take anything Tyson Fury says at his word, but you also have to factor in that if for some reason things don't work out between Alexander Usyk and Tyson Fury, well, he's going to have to fight somebody else, and network and promotional politics being what they are these days, the easiest fights to make are in-house fights. And Fury versus Joyce, that's an in-house fight.
Fury would open up as the favorite against Joyce. In truth, Fury would probably open up as the favorite against most, if not all, of the division.
That being said, Fury versus Joyce is still a far more intriguing fight than the fight he's about to have with Derek Chisora. That trilogy, as much as I love Derek, we all know how this is going to end.
If for some reason things between Fury and Usyk don't work out next year, you have to offer up the fight fans something else, something just as interesting.
No Safaris or Pianettas, no Tom Schwarzes, and no Derek Chisora trilogies. No Deontay Wilder 4th fight.
God's sake.
In a scenario like that where Joyce ends up opposite the ring, Tyson Fury, he won't be Alexander Usyk's problem anymore.
Currently, he's in a pole position to challenge Alexander Usyk as his WBO mandatory challenger. But if they forego that process and decide to get fast-tracked to a Fury fight,
Alexander Usyk might be off the hook. He might be, at least, with the WBO. Currently, he's under orders by way of the IBF to take on Philippe Hrgovic.
And we still don't know what's going to happen with that. Is he going to skip out on Fury to hang on to the red belt, or is he going to drop it so he can move forward with the Fury fight? Though if he does, it's not an undisputed title fight anymore.
Like I've been saying, that requires reconciliation. Can they get the IBF to stand down with this order so they can move forward with the undisputed heavyweight title fight? No, mandatory should take precedence over that. And finally, just in keeping with the theme of all things heavyweight, per a tweet from Michael Benson, Eddie Hearn has stated that news could come imminently on Anthony Joshua's next fight, which is being planned to take place at the end of March or in the first week of April.
Jesus Christ, they can't bring this guy back in January or February?
Excuse me for saying so, but the last 3 years, Anthony Joshua has not been anywhere near as active as he should be. I think he only fought once in 2020, only once in 2021, and only once this year. The idea is to hit the ground running next year, to get this guy back to fighting at least 2, maybe even 3 times a year.
His corner situation needs working on as well. I heard something about him enlisting the aid of Roy Jones Jr.
Listen, Roy Jones Jr. the fighter. Roy Jones Jr. the commentator. Great fucking guy. Top tier, top notch, no doubt about it. But Roy the trainer?
Nah, man.
Boxing Kingdom tweeted, Anthony Joshua is expected to move up to number 2 in the IBF heavyweight rankings. Hrgovic is number 1. Both teams are pushing for a vacant title bout. This would be possible if Usyk is stripped. The IBF have enforced the Hrgovic mandatory.
I'll tell you something. I like Joshua versus Hrgovic a lot more than I like Joshua versus White, provided White wins this weekend.
There's been a lot of talk about a potential rematch provided that Dillian makes it through the Jermaine Franklin fight this weekend. And I'm not against them eventually fighting for a second time. I just don't want that to be Anthony Joshua's next fight. I have no desire to see Anthony knock that guy out again.
Not next, anyway.
Let's go after some new blood. Do the Hrgovic fight for March or April, whenever it falls, and then do the Dillian White fight later on in the summer months and cap off the year.
You know, if Alexander Usyk ends up getting stripped, and Philippe and Anthony end up fighting for his newly vacated red belt, that will be met with criticism.
Because if that happens, Fury versus Usyk won't be for the undisputed championship anymore. I see a lot of people out there, they're laying the blame at the feet of Eddie Hearn, when in truth, if you're going to blame anybody for this, you should be blaming the IBF, because they're the ones who are choosing to enforce this mandate on Alexander Usyk, where they don't seem to be bothering Errol Spence, they don't seem to be bothering Jermall Charlo. Either way, they're not bothering those two guys, but they're very Johnny on the spot with most everyone else, Alexander Usyk included, at a time when everybody knows they're in the midst of negotiating the undisputed heavyweight title fight. You pick now to order this fight?
You trying to block Undisputed?
In a situation where the IBF so decides to order a fight between a matchroom fighter and all Eddie Hearn can do is oblige them and do his due diligence as that fighter's promoter to get him his title shot. But none of this happens without the IBF.
None of this happens without them ordering that fight. And they so chose now to order that fight, knowing Usyk is in the midst of negotiating a fight with Tyson Fury.
There's a feeling that, behind the scenes, this is all just a play to put the red belt back in Anthony Joshua's hands, though in truth, having seen the bulk of Anthony Joshua's career, for the longest time, he was being bogged down, weighed down by the obligations that come from holding an alphabet title, alphabet titles. Does he really need those obligations here and now when he's on the rebound? Shouldn't he use this time as an opportunity
to fight on his own schedule, on his own terms, instead of theirs, instead of the IBF and
everybody else? Let the champions take on the champions and let the top contenders do what they feel is necessary, because Anthony, unlike a lot of other guys, he's got enough marquee value that he can still bring in the big bucks without an alphabet title. I don't know that it's the best thing for him.
You think this guy needs the red belt to sell an Otto Valine fight or a Zhilei Zhang fight, a Hrgovic fight? I'm going to tell you right now, he doesn't.
Why do you think Tyson Fury keeps bringing this guy up? Because even now, off of 2 back-to-back losses, 3 overall, he still has a lot of marquee value. He's still worth a lot of fucking money.
What he really needs to do is focus on sorting out that corner situation.
Anthony's still an entertaining fighter to watch, and I think a lot of people have forgotten that he is a knockout artist. Those Alexander Usyk fights aside, this guy's got a hefty KO percentage, and he needs to get back to being that guy. Not everybody's Alexander Usyk, you know.
Some things take priority. Sorting out the corner situation is more important than fighting for an alphabet title or getting in position to fight for one.
This guy, he brings in the big bucks, with or without a belt.